Hello, so we got GLM-5, undoubtedly top 3 and top 1 open source model, saying from vibe coding to agentic engineering. And yeah, I'm ready to just put vibe coding behind us, which is kind of the style that you prompt and not check, or at least not check much. And agentic engineering is a completely different approach, where you essentially make a plan and you walk away and let AI just work. And unlike in most cases, I actually have extensive experience with this model. It was called Pony Alpha, available for like a week or so before release. And the very cool part is that these Chinese models tend to share tech quite a bit. GLM-5 also integrates DeepSeek sparse attention, significantly reducing deployment cost while preserving long context capacity. But they also carried on. Reinforcement learning aims to bridge the gap between competence and excellence in pre-trained models. However, deploying it at scale for LLMs is a challenge due to reinforcement learning training inefficiency. To this end, we developed Slime, a novel asynchronous reinforced learning infrastructure that substantially improves training output and efficiency, enabling more fine-grained post-training iterations. It's certainly very interesting, because the American models and the Chinese models follow a different style. And interestingly, the American models still steal from the Chinese model still, although I guess they both steal from each other. But still, they're literally showing the code and still kind of winning, at least value-wise. But let's just see how much. And apparently, GLM-5 is winning humanity's last exam. And overall, it's kind of needless to go over it. Basically, this update made their newest flagship model, GLM-5, Tier 1. And even on the Vending-bench, they are 4th place, right? This is a somewhat flawed benchmark, but this is still very impressive. And interestingly, very boldly, they're positioning it against Claude Opus 4.5 as a true contender, only really falling behind in multi-step chained tasks. But let's just see artificial analysis. Right, this is the site. I always say it wrong. But this also backs my findings, although they are not including the GPT 5.3 codex here, which clearly would be first place, with Opus 2nd, and I guess GLM-5 as 3rd. Right. We can see on the Artificial Analysis Intelligence Index that it's 3rd place, so no doubt. Although it kind of depends on how you count the opuses, so I guess you might count them as 1 or 2. They are fairly close. So essentially you have the Claude Opus and the double price Opus. But according to their data, Gemini 3 Pro is beating GLM-5 barely on the coding index. But you also have to consider how agentic it is. And it is apparently beating even Codex. So it's only beaten by Opus. And I can attest to this. So my favorite model currently would be GPT 5.3 Codex. That is the best for the prompt and check style. But just for, I guess, agentic engineering, if that's the term we're gonna go with, then it's either gonna be Opus if you are going to spend that much, or it's gonna be GLM-5. Seemingly one of their weakness of these models that usually you would not see on the benchmarks is that they are not that slow. So just going off this information, but also I experienced this myself, you are not going to use it for more of a hands-on experience. So I would say for that sucks. Even though the model is pretty strong, if you just want to use it for a quick fix, so to speak, then you might as well just use like a Gemini Flash. So that's got to be better for that. But if you're talking about more of a make a plan and walk away at a good price, then they are more positioned for that. Albeit the GLM-5 is definitely more pricey. Priced at 1 in and 3.2 out. Which is still not bad, I guess, compared to the big boys, but it's getting very close. So GPT would be 1.75, while Gemini Pro would be 2. However, presumably, the main way to get it, unless you are paying their API, which you can do, but generally it's seeming that the subscriptions are more worth it. And they had a really good coding plan. during like December, I didn't get it because buying a year-long plan is a big investment in the AI arena. But anyone who got it is probably pretty happy. But their light package is not super worth it because they only support the GLM 4.7, right? So that's not a good deal, no doubt. The Pro is okay-ish, although they say that you get 3 times the usage of Claude Pro plan. How much is that? Like at most 45 per 5 hours? Also, I'm not sure how much you're getting per week. But the Claude Pro plan is like notoriously terrible. But essentially my point is that I'm not quite sure what you would be getting here. But let's just say that you're getting like 40 with the Lite, and that would mean that you're getting 200 with the Pro. Although, kind of depends on how much the vehicle limit is. And then you would get a lot more with the Max, if you need that. Because I guess the question here is that, like, the Max seems like the best deal, clearly, but assuming you're using it. That's kind of hard to say what is the right call, because Codex is extremely aggressive right now. They are offering a double quota, while Claude is offering double price. But here the Pro, and I would say that arguably the Max plan is pretty compelling. As long as you can use it up, and it is truly agentic engineering. And while I was perusing what else it can do, I came to realize that it's not only really good, but also it is literally best in class in bench telecom. Probably doesn't matter that much because this is a pretty even field. But in AA, omniscience, non-hallucination rate, it's jumping ahead of the pack. Interesting. And aside from that, the most possibly interesting aspect here is that the GTP eval. So it might be, assuming we have an idea, it might be able to make money, or at least more money than it costs to run it, right? This is kind of limited by our imagination. And more importantly than imagination, other costs. But still, this is quite notable because we can see GLM-5 here, and it's competing with Claude Opus and GPT 5.2. But then we see that the GPT 5.2 over here is stupidly expensive, right? It spends a lot of money thinking. So it actually comes out to even more expensive than the Claude Opus, and the Claude Opus is just very expensive. But not GLM-5 though. And most notably, it has the agenticness to keep going. Like most things on the board that could be competing intelligence-wise, like Gemini 3 Pro, but it just does not have the capability to work alone. The right choice definitely matters on how you're working and what you're working on. Because possibly the problem with more of a hands-on approach is that, assuming that you're experience yourself, then that is probably going to be the best way to get results, right? Highest quality, just with Codex, you're maybe not even sitting there, but you're checking every time, right? But the problem with this is that this doesn't exactly scale, right? You can maybe like work on one project at a time, maybe like 2 projects. That's kind of my experience, that you might like prompt one project and like, you know, turn around to the other one, like, okay, then you come back to the first one, let's see what's going on. So like realistically like 2, maybe 3, but I don't think the third is really getting worked on here. And 1 would be the most realistic, but let's just say 2. But if we want to talk about true leverage here, then the true leverage would be that you make a plan, a very detailed one, and you tell to AI, like, just do this, okay? And almost certainly, AI is going to get it wrong a little bit. Maybe more than a little bit. But assuming the plan was good and the AI is properly agentic, then it's still going to be more efficient than the prompt and check style. So otherwise put, if you're working on 1 or 2 things at a time, and everything needs to be perfect, then I guess you might not care about agenticness that much. But I would say it still matters a lot, because even the same project, you can break it apart in parts, and you perhaps can work on it in parallel. So maybe a certain thing can be built up while you're working on something else. But of course, we are thinking about small scale here. So if you're talking about like, 1, 2, or 3, or 5, or even 10, then I guess you have more of a wiggle room. But if you're talking about like 100 or 1,000, right? There's no contest. Like, you just need agenticness all the way. But oddly enough, then you might come to realize that we don't need like 10,000 projects building at the same time. We just need one good one. But of course, this means that you can also build out non-blocking parts of the same project. So that is it. I used GLM-5 quite a bit, and I liked it. Maybe if I can become someone who's more of the follower of the Rabbit Raccoon style, just building out like, hundreds of things at the same time, if I can be that, then it could be the one. But these days I'm averaging more like 5. Literally as we speak, I have 5 things open. Oh yeah, they got this invite friends, earn credits, up to 20% bonus, no limits. Great. So I'm going to just post in the description in case these codes are going to be useful to you and you want to give it a shot. So yeah,